Alright, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Today I'm going to be talking about a sheep blaster story that happened before I actually became a sheep blaster. So when I first discovered self-improvement, I was actually in the UK, and I was learning and trying to be more of a productive person, right? I was trying to be a person of action rather than a person of passivity. And this meant like, okay, I've got to think like, I've got to do what other people aren't willing to do. And so this actually backfired on me, and this makes a great story, and I cannot believe that I've never told this story before. But basically, it was a Saturday night. I was in town just getting home from work. I was working at another restaurant, a Thai restaurant, and I was so knackered from work. It was really busy. I wanted to take the bus home. So I was waiting at the bus stop, and there was this guy in a wheelchair. And this guy was like pretty much unconscious, almost. But when you see a guy in a wheelchair, you just think, oh, maybe he's like autistic or something. And he was just at that bus stop and left at the bus stop, very strangely, like no one was there or anything. And then the bus comes, and then there's like a bunch of people waiting at the bus stop, mostly like teenage girls. They were probably like clubbing or something, or I don't know, going to some kind of motive, as teenage girls do. Back then I was a teenager, so I could talk like that. But everyone was like looking at him, kind of whispering to each other like, oh, like, is he okay? Like, everyone was like looking at this guy because they thought the same thing that I was thinking, which was, does this guy need help? So I thought, okay, I'm the person that's gonna go and talk to him. So I went to talk to him, and I said, hello, sir, are you okay? And he's like, yep. And then I asked him, do you need to take this bus? And he's like, yep. So I roll him onto the bus. You know, the bus driver does the beep, 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 beep thing, and the wheelchair ramp comes out of the doors. I park him in the space, I lock his wheelchair in, and I go to tap in to the bus stop, where the bus driver is, and he asks me, are you traveling with him? And I say no. And he's like, can you find out where he's going then, so I can take care of him, get him to where he needs to go? So I'm like, okay, that's a good idea, probably. So I go and talk to this guy, and he just stops responding completely. He just doesn't talk at all. Eventually I get out of him after like a minute of trying to talk to him. He says, I'm going to Kingston, which is just where we were at the bus stop in town, is Kingston. And so I go over to the bus driver, and I'm like, he said that he's going to Kingston. And the bus driver gets really pissed off. He starts swearing at me. He's like, are you fucking serious? You brought this guy onto this guy and you don't even know where he's going? All this stuff, right? So I go upstairs. He just like he's literally yelling at me. He's like, go upstairs. Fuck off. Go upstairs. Like, dude, fuck. So I go upstairs. I'm like sitting like at the top bunk right by the stairs where you go up to the second floor. And he stops the bus just one stop before where I need to get off. And eventually, I'm looking at the camera, the CCTV camera, and I see that the bus driver is talking to the guy. They start yelling at each other for some reason. And then we start hearing banging and screaming. And the guy in the wheelchair is banging his foot against the door. And he's yelling, get me out of this bus! Get me out! Get me out! Get me out! And the bus driver comes upstairs, like I can hear his boots stomping, like doom, 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 like really angrily and fast. And I'm like, oh shit. He comes and starts yelling at me, saying like, you fucking idiot, you're being so irresponsible, now you've put this fucking, like, oh my god. He just starts yelling at me, like saying that I was being stupid, and I've just given him a huge problem, and that he's gonna have to call the police to find out where this guy's going and why he's even here. And this goes on for another like 5 minutes, where everyone's just like, what the fuck is going on right now? And I feel really bad because I've just like made this a problem for another guy. And, looking back, I even during this time, I was thinking like, this bus driver probably had some like problems in his life. That's why he was yelling at me. So I didn't take it personally, thankfully, back then. But like, it was so strange. And eventually it just turns out that the guy in the wheelchair was some drunk guy, and there was like beer spilled over the floor. He had like a can of beer tucked into his leg, and it was hidden. I didn't see it at all. I think if I saw it initially when I was talking to the guy, I wouldn't have taken him on. That's what I think. My theory, what happened is his friends and him got too drunk, so they got him a wheelchair, and they just decided to leave him right opposite the McDonald's, which, you know, that makes sense, right? Everyone gets Mackies when they're drunk. And so eventually the bus driver opens the front door to let everyone out, and I get off because, like, I'm only one stop away and I want to get home because I'm like, why the hell did this guy just yell at me? But yeah, that's the story of how I ruined a bus driver's day, but I also got yelled at very, very heavily at. And right after he came upstairs to yell at me some more, all the teenage girls before, they were like, they were there, they watched him like yell at me, and they were just sitting behind me, and they start saying like, yeah, but I think you did the right thing, like he had no right to like yell at you like that. And they were being like supportive teenage girls. Yeah, love women, woohoo. But yeah, it was a very strange experience, and looking back, I'm like, I'm proud of myself for taking like the harder step, like doing what no one else will do, but I'm just sad that it kind of turned out to be like a mistake. I never could have foreseen what would happen in the future. They probably got like some police or something like to, deal with the situation, but I think since that incident, it's unfortunately made me less of a kind person. I think living in London, like a city like this, that also makes you like more reserved and less likely to go out and do something or talk to someone that, other people would just stay away. They don't want to get into other people's business. And since this experience, I feel like for a while, it made me very wary of like what I do, how I interact with other people, like who I actually go out and help. Like, especially like with homeless people as well. I've had like bad interactions with homeless people who come like begging for money, and then they like try and steal my phone. So, like that's just living in London, and the city just makes you like more of an asshole. And I think that's just like a environmental thing. It's not really like everyone's an asshole who lives in the city. It's more like everyone lives in the city. They see how many people there are, so they feel more insignificant, and that turns into anger and rage. And so they like, that's just like that's a whole nother video. But yeah, this was like a weird time. And I remember telling my aunt and uncle about this, and they were like, oh, bless you, I think you did the right thing. I'm glad you're okay, and all that kind of stuff. Looking back, I probably should have reported it because that guy probably needed help, like the bus driver. But yeah, what did we learn from this story? Be wary of your kindness. So I'm only telling this story because I just recorded a video about how to deal with negative people, and my approach is to be kind towards them, to only give them kindness. But then I'm also thinking about the fact that that can backfire, where you give your kindness, you do something that you think from the outside is kind, but then can it actually turn into something negative? You have to be wary of these things, and obviously I couldn't like foresee a situation like that, right? But yeah, just a strange story that's kind of living in the city kind of vibe. So yeah, I'll talk to you later.